Hey there, welcome to Contracts and Chaos. My name's Alyssa.
And I'm Brenna, and we're here to tell you that you are not alone in the mayhem of this real estate industry.
We're keeping it real and sharing our stories, strategies, and successes in today's real estate world.
So come join us every Tuesday while we talk contracts and chaos. We are recording. I think we've said that we're going to do a book review every quarter. Is this?
This is Q2.
Okay, so we're a little behind on
yeah,
our,
we're technically recording it the day one of Q3, which reminds me, we're doing 12-week year next week. I was like, oh shoot, we're in Q3.
Yes, we are officially halfway through the year as of today when we're recording, which is insane. But okay, well, time out. Before we actually start the episode, I sent a little text out to the little group of people that goes to Coffee in Statesville every once in a while, right? We're halfway through the year. So, Alyssa, what is one thing that you're proud of this year so far and one thing that you're excited for in the next few months? And I didn't prep you for this.
No, you could see me like slow blinking, like, one thing I'm proud of.
It's so easy. Yeah, one thing you're proud of and one thing you're excited for that's coming up, because it's so easy, like, oh well, I'm not quite where I thought I wanted to be, or this week was just a dumpster fire, or
looking at my numbers, I'm not where I wanted to be, and I have to keep reminding myself that I'm usually a second half of the year agent.
And if you track your things, you'll get to it's cyclical, right?
Yes.
Like
every year I am a second half,
3 and 4. Yep.
I'm like Syracuse basketball. Except usually they shit the bed in the last 2 seconds of the game. So
no, well, don't do that.
Right. Okay, one thing I'm proud of is there's been a couple hurdles this year, between being super sick for the first month and then like wacko people.
I love that you say a couple, like it hasn't been an actual bushel.
It's
hiccups. There's just been a couple small things.
It's been a bushel of wackos this year. That's a good way to put it. I haven't given up. I've pushed through all of them. I've found ways to get creative, to work around things. And the thing I'm excited about is I decided to really jump into video. I just kind of said, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I've always done it on my own with like my phone and a tripod and a microphone. But for my list, and like have done like walkthrough tours, like with a professional photographer or videographer for my listings. But I just hired some real pros who are doing like the trendy, different transitions, things like that. And I've identified my niche for my video. So I'm really
excited about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I actually have to post one when we hang up. And I kind of started it before I did Alyssa Explains It All. I literally had a graphic designer make me the graphic for it. So I think I need to get back into that because that was fun. But I'm leaning into pop culture reference because that's who I am. I mean, you guys know it listening to me on this. Like, I'm always like, oh, there's that movie or that sports team or blah, 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 blah. And so I've really struggled to find my identity in video, to be like, who am I in these amazing videos? Katie Day's the lady that sits on the couch, leans forward, and talks to you. There's the girl out of Florida who's just dry and sarcastic, and I freaking love her, but that just wouldn't work in my market. Because I could totally be the one like, that house has got a lot of bush. And who knows, I might throw some of that in there if it's appropriate, but I just did a listing video that was, oh shoot, I'm so tired. The first one was all Taylor Swift. It had a ton of Taylor Swift references in it. The second one that you'll see posted today is 10 Things I Hate About You. And then the one that's brewing in my mind for my next listing is probably going to be a Mean Girls reference. So right? And my videographer, this is funny. He reminds me a lot of you. He's 22. He's adorable, but he had no idea what 10 Things I Hate About You was.
Oh, so you had to take him to school like
I
you did with me
literally,
and whoever it
yes.
was last week.
Yeah, I literally, and Ariel too. I was talking to Ariel and I was like, do you know? She's like, I've never seen it. And I was like, geez, we're going to have like a girls' night because no
She's
wonder
never seen 10 Things I Hate About You?
No. I was like,
But
what?
she's my age. Like, I've seen that. I like that movie.
Right?
My
I was
kids would
like,
probably love that movie. And we're so off topic. And listen, we will have a book report coming up
we
here in
will
the
have
next
one.
32 seconds. I swear.
But yeah.
Violet's obsession recently is White Chicks. We
Oh.
have watched White Chicks 487 times
That's
in the last
funny.
3 months. It's hilarious, and she loves it.
I haven't watched that one in forever. But yeah, or like I made a reference to the weather. You and I both picked the same clip. We found the same reel. But I originally made the reference just like the written text from Good Morning Vietnam. And no one, they're like, what is this? You're funny. And I was like, have you never seen this movie? Like, it's one of my favorites. One of my favorite movies of all time is Good Morning Vietnam. Like,
I just love him so much. Any of his movies, I'm totally down for.
If you and I ever like share a hotel room for some reason, my alarm in the morning is Adrian Cronauer.
Oh,
swear to God, you'll hear "Good Morning Vietnam." That's what I wake up to. So yes, there will be. So I am very excited because I feel comfortable in this niche, and I'm hoping it will convert and it will give me an identity online. So I think
those are great things. I think those are great things, and we are off and running on Q3. Okay, we are talking about The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Is that how we pronounce it?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, it is. Like, even if you weren't with KW at any point in time, this is a huge, huge bestseller in our industry and other industries.
I was going to say, this is not real estate specific. This you could apply, I think, to any business.
And not even just business, like personal goals as well. But I think it came out as a follow-up to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the idea behind it. But it is a huge productivity and, self-development book. And it's a pretty easy read. I liked it. It was easy to read, easy to follow. And I think it's just continuously, and we were talking before we hit record about how each part of the book, each chapter of the book really just is a different approach to forcing home the concept of the one thing. So
right.
When you think the one thing, Alyssa, what is that? What does that say to you?
It means to me, like, I need to narrow down either, I guess before I went through this, either what I'm good at, and that's what I do. I took it kind of back to like the profit first approach of like, I focus on what I'm good at and I hire other people to do the other things. But in this book, it's more of like, what's going to move the ball? Like what's getting you, what's the one thing that if you continue to do this and everything else will be easier. Everything else will come together.
And that's why we talk about on the podcast so much, like, and this isn't like the one thing is 2 hours of lead gen cold calling every day. That's not what this book is about. Mm-mm. This book is about figuring out what your one thing is, right? So for somebody, that might be a monthly mamas get together, right? That's where they get their business, their social hour, those things like that. Maybe it is 2 hours of cold calling lead gen first thing in the morning, hyped up on caffeine, and that's the one thing that consistently brings you business. Maybe it's the farming. Maybe it could be any number of things. But what happens is we dilute our energy so much in being like, well, I'm going to send out a newsletter. I'm going to send out one round of postcards every 3 months. I'm going to call these 5 FSBOs. And next week, I'm going to call 2 expireds. Because you see other people being successful in their area of confidence. You're like, well, it's working for them, so it must work for me. But then there's a quote in this book, and I'll think of it in a second, because it's like, multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time. I think that's my
Yes.
favorite quote in the
That
whole
was,
book.
you literally catch me typing something else. Yes. And
It's merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time, because we aren't able to multitask. You can do
No.
multiple things, but you cannot do multiple things with 100% of your effort. It is impossible. So
Agreed.
that's where this like one thing, pick your thing, stay in your lane. I think that's the theme of this book.
Yes. And I think the other theme is like when you, and I loved this example, and he carried it through the book in illustrations, was like a domino. I think a small domino can knock over a domino that's half again its size or something like that.
Yes.
So if you're focused on this one domino, it's going to tackle this domino, which will then tackle this domino, and that to me, I was like, that makes sense. Like, I like how he used visual examples, not just like written lists or tasks because that was the one thing. Like, if you do this thing and you're good at it and it builds success, then the dominoes will start to fall. So I liked that. That and what did you just say? I'm sorry.
The multitasking part?
Yes, the multitasking. That was the other thing where I was like, it makes sense, because how many times are you like doing one thing and then you see an email pop up and then that pulls you this way? Like,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, it happens so often. But the first time I've read this book, this will be the second time that I've read it. But the first time I read it, I like highlighted, underscored, wrote it down in a notebook. Multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time.
Yes.
Because you're just dividing your attention. Like, and that's where we end up getting into trouble. And this goes back to, again, it's like a compound effect, like you said with that domino. Like, we're not talking about making big, massive moves every day. Like 1% better, right? Small actions, big results. There was, I don't know if it was a training or where I heard it, but small hinges move big doors. You know,
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, it was. I was like, oh, that's a great one, because those small actions consistently over and over and over make a huge impact in your business and other people's lives, in your life, depending on how you're applying this principle of the one thing. For us, of course, we're talking about real estate and focusing on our business, but there's a million ways that you could interpret this into your life or business.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the first half of the book really focuses on how to define what the goal is and what the one thing is to reach that goal. And it reminded me a lot of and I gave someone this advice over the weekend, the advice my mom gave me that led me to real estate, which is figure out what you want your life to look like and then engineer backwards from there to figure out what job's going to fit that role. So he kind of gives you the same thing, like reverse engineer that domino path. Like, okay, we need to knock down this giant domino over here. And it reminds me still a lot of like the 12-week year. This doesn't give you a timeline, but it's still breaking it down into smaller tasks. And this one is but this book is, what's the one? What is the one thing that's going to make all of this come together? And so I think before you can apply this, so if you're listening to us, don't be like, okay, my one thing is totally my cold calling. That's what I have. Hold up. Because what's your actual goal? You need to identify that first and then work backwards. So I think that's probably the most important step in this. And then I think the second most important, in my opinion, is the time blocking. And it brought me back to, okay, I need to get back to following my calendar. Like, I have things written out and I have it built in, but I'm actually doing it at those times. Am I actually getting no, I'm not. And if I were, because my time block is built in with my one thing, then I'd probably be where I wanted to be so far this year. So,
yep. We have to stop being flexible in the commitments that we make to ourselves, right? Like, it wouldn't, if we had an appointment on our time block for a seller consultation, we wouldn't move that 20 minutes.
Right.
Right? We wouldn't show up late 20 minutes to that. So why are we showing up late 20 minutes to the one thing that is creating those seller consults, or making those connections for us? Because that is how this is a sales business. If we're talking about real estate, you are in a sales industry. I hate to break it to you.
I mean, it's more service than sales, but to get to that service point, there are sales tactics involved.
Yes, because absolutely. you have to get the client before you can show off those service skills and how we take care of those people. We have to have those people to take care of first, you know?
Right. And I think that brings up a good point of urgent versus important. Because he says in the book, like, block 4 hours a day to focus on your one thing. And you may find that you don't need that much time eventually, but block it originally to see where you land with it after a while. But then you need to distinguish urgent versus important. So like my time blocking, I have checking my email built in. I check it first thing in the morning, make sure there's nothing urgent or important. Then I move into whatever my time block, if I follow it the way it actually is. And then I have it set after a couple hours, then I check my email again. And I truly need to go back to that because I have found, and I used to run into this in corporate America, I would end up just answering emails all day and not actually getting actionable items done. And
Heck,
so
we get a lot of emails.
Shit ton. I'm going through like trying to organize the ones that are red because I have 1,000 red ones that aren't either deleted or organized. So I'm trying to do 100 of those a day for the next couple, 10 days. Yeah. Because I just want it cleaned up. But that's the thing. Like not every email, and I'm just using emails as an example for that urgency addiction, has to be answered right away. Not every situation has to be handled right away.
Yep.
I've gotten really good at using the send later on my text messages.
I was just going to say,
love that. I use it with you all the time.
Yeah.
When I'm like, oh, it's midnight. Text her at 8 a.m. when I'm still asleep, but I know she's up with the kids.
But she's awake, right. Use the technology to your advantage, right? I did that. I got an email from a client, and I don't work on Sundays, right? But I get that notification that I got an email from this client on Sunday afternoon, and I went to respond, and I'm like, Brenna, cut it out. They know that I don't work on Sunday.
Right.
I know that I don't work on Sunday. Why am I emailing them? So I wrote out the email, and I scheduled to send at 8 o'clock Monday morning, 8:02 or something like that. And it worked fine. They were like, oh my gosh, you didn't respond to me for 14 hours. They know that Sunday I'm off the clock.
And I'm going to throw this little tip in here. I don't know if you follow Casey McCowan. He's another agent with Real. I found him on TikTok for something completely unrelated to real estate. Do not be afraid to enforce that boundary. And if that loses you clients for some reason, then let them go. Because he posted, a client fired him this weekend because he was getting married. And he told him he'd be unavailable. And the client thought that was unprofessional. Now, I'm sure Casey had someone lined up to take care of things for him. And maybe I don't know the whole story. But he posted about it. And I was like, absolutely. Like, no. And my clients know, like, I had a listing go live Friday. And I told them, I'm out of town. I'll have all my stuff with me. But while I'm on the plane and, like, doing things, my response might be longer than normal. Just, it'll be fine. No one's going to write us an offer Friday. And if they do, then I will, as soon as I get stopped.
Right.
Or I had clients who I needed to review their inspection with them. And I text them and I was like, I'm literally getting bounced around the back of an F-250 right now. Like we're in Dukes of Hazzard. Are you guys okay if we go over this Monday night? Because I'm going to get car sick. And I just know that once we got to where we were going, I was not going to have time to step away from people to walk through this. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. Like their due diligence isn't up until the 15th. So we're fine. And I was like, cool.
And this is about the time management too. Like this is, and not just because you were on vacation, like busy, like your time blocking your personal time. This also applies to when that offer comes in or that due diligence request comes in at 9:30 in the morning, and your time block says that, like right now, we're podcasting, right? Like
right. You and I both have a hard stop for this. Everyone in our life knows. Do not try to get a hold of us between 9:30 and usually 10:30 or 11.
Usually 10:30ish, right? But it's like. I'm not responding to emails, right? I'm not responding to text messages, those kinds of things, because if I stopped this like flow of conversation that I'm having right now and like tried to text on the side, guess what? I'd lose my train of thought, and then I'd be like, wait, what were we talking about? And then that's what happens. It takes your brain, I forget how long it is exactly, for you to come back and focus on that item. So there is one thing, like it says to block like 4 hours a day on your one thing. I cannot do 4 hours at a time.
No. I'm not allowed to. I have 3 little critters who are like, oh, you've been working for an hour? We need to go outside. Okay.
We need pets.
Right.
You need to pet us. How am I supposed to live without affection?
Right.
And constant reassurance that I am the light of your life. Hey, that's me as a human, so...
yeah, kind of.
It is. I'm just like, I need Travis to text me. He doesn't. Listen, he goes to work. God love him. But the days that he's like, hey, love you, I'm just like, he loves me. Yeah, oh my God, it's terrible. But seriously, that time blocking thing, and I have to tell you, I'm a paper girly. I use a paper planner.
I use both.
But I am trying so hard. The last month, I've been really consistent with Google Calendar, right? Because here's my thing. When I write it down, I write it in pen. I have a highlighter. Like, I can't click and move that, and then I'm annoyed because that's not how the day actually worked.
Do you need me to send you some whiteout? Because my calendar is in pen and highlighter. I bought erasable highlighters.
Nice.
And I also have whiteout for when those things.
That's great.
Yeah.
The Google Calendar, I like Sunday, I can pull up the week view on my computer, and like, if things need to be rearranged, I can rearrange them, add in those last appointments, those kinds of things, and really have because it's all color-coded, a very visual perception of how much time I'm spending on my business.
Right.
Right? And what I need to do personally is reevaluate, like, what that one thing for me in my business right now is. Because the first time I read this book, my one thing was lead gen, and that lead gen was BizBos. That was my one thing because that's where I was. Like, 3 months into the business, I didn't know anybody. I didn't have anybody. Like, that's what was going to pay the bills. But things change.
Right.
You know? So, and we go over this when we do our 12-week year too. The ability to look at something and say, this isn't working is fine, but you shouldn't be doing that every day or every 20 minutes or every like mailer that you send out and don't get a response from. Like, you have to have some level of commitment and consistency.
Right. And what I would suggest right now is, if you know what your one thing is, let's pause this episode. You can come back to us. Mm-hmm. Go build in your time blocking right now. Go take 30 minutes or an hour, however long you need. Yep. Figure out what, and also focus on, like, especially if you are neurospicy like me, when do you get that burst of energy to do things? There's a reason Brenna and I record at 9:30. If you've tried to get me to do this at another time of day, say 7:30, one, she'd be hauling kids to school. 2, I would be like, hold on, let me get out of bed. I know what time.
My prime hours of the day are 11 to 2. Like, I am the most productive. I am the most focused. I am the most, I don't know, those 3 hours, that's just.
Well, and that's why a lot of times you and I, when we wrap this, we're like, okay, gotta go. Because we're like, it's 11. We both know. We're like, all right, this is my prime.
Those are my prime hours. This is our time to shine, baby.
Right? We are going to rock and roll right now. Yes. But yeah, same thing. Like, and I don't know why I have this internal clock. Like, 6 o'clock, my brain stops. No matter how, some days, no matter how hard I fight. No, there are days where I push through and it's 9 o'clock. But then I send graphics to a golf tournament I'm sponsoring that has a digit missing in my phone number. So.
Oh, Alyssa. Well, that you should have seen me last night editing the podcast because I forgot that I hadn't, like, because I batch them, right? So there's 3 or 4 done, but this is the week that I needed to have 3 or 4 more done, and I hadn't. So you should have seen me editing the podcast last night. So y'all listen to the episode that posts on July 1st, and you're like,
what?
Huh?
What happened?
Just know I was doing that at like 10:30 last night with one eyeball open.
That's exactly what happened, but yes.
Let's go over a couple of productivity lies. Yes. Because those, I think, they're lies, right?
Well, like, we've kind of covered one, like the multitasking.
Yep, multitasking we already did. You can't do it. And I am if you could see my computer screen right now, I have 2 separate windows open, and each of those windows have no less than 7 tabs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not productive. No, that's not helpful. And I do have bookmarks set up because someone's like, well, just use bookmarks, and that way you can have those, websites saved or whatever.
Bookmarks. They're hard to find.
Me either. So here's the thing. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to come back to that. Oh, I'm going to come back to that. Oh, I'm going to need that later.
But I don't think I've ever used my bookmarks. I mean, I have them, but I just have the tabs pinned. so I can switch.
It's terrible. Don't do that.
That's how my brain works.
Be better. I'm trying to be better at I'm working on content. So I have Canva, Coffee and Contracts, Momentum. You know what I mean? Those things up that but listen, it's a struggle. We're all learning. We're all getting better here.
Well, I kind of think you're right. Maybe I do need to close the tabs, because when I am working on one thing on my browser and I see the tabs, also I'm like, oh, I haven't looked at listing leads today. Or I haven't
forgot I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm. But also I know out of sight, out of mind for me. So we'll work on that one.
Well, but that's where the time block comes in, right?
True.
When your time block's up, we close out that batch of tabs, and now we're reviewing the buyer searches that we have set up. Maybe
taking today's to-do list, and I'm going to write in update time block.
Yeah, nice little to-do list. I love the sticky notes. Okay, another one, which we've kind of brushed on, is everything matters equally in your business. That everything's important. It's a little different from the important versus urgent, right? There's tasks in our business that are important that all has to be done, but not everything is moving the needle equally. Not everything you do produces the results that the one thing that you're really good at does.
Right.
Right? And you can go into the
I would say they reference
80-20 rule.
Yeah, the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20 rule, and it just says that 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. So a small portion of your effort is actually what leads to the larger portion of your results. So if you're putting a larger effort into the one thing that's going to drive results, then you'll be more successful. And
statistically, you're winning. Right.
Exactly. So don't feel like, oh my God, I have to do it all. Focus on that one thing. And that effort, like we said, the dominoes will start to fall, because putting the effort one place is going to give you bigger results in the end. So I liked the breakdown of that one. The other one I liked was the willpower is always on will call. And you and I just touched on that. It is not. We are 11 to 2 people. And that's how our brain works. That's when it turns on and we're like, got this.
Yep.
So that's a
hard one for me. That's the hard one, because you see that to-do list, right? And you're like, oh yeah, we just keep going and going and going and going. And you can, but there's a definite line of how much punch that work is actually receiving. You know what I mean? When you feel good, when you're in the zone, when you're getting work done, it just happens. And then the times when you're working and you're trying to finish this paperwork and you're uploading this or you're doing that, and it's just a drag.
Right.
Everything's taking way too long, and it's just not, and it's because of that. That's why it's important to know what your one thing is, so you're using your prime energy and your willpower in the 20% that is driving 80% of your success.
Right. And the other thing, moving forward, if I were to give you a tip, is okay, so we've gone over the lies, we've gone over, okay, you need a time block, but have you audited your daily routine? And I feel like you and I have discussed this on here before, of actually reverse time blocking, I call it. I want you to go into your calendar and track everything you do today and color code it. And if it's stuff that's not productive, I put all my commutes, when I have to drive to different locations, as black, because it's wasted time. I can't get shit done. Maybe some phone calls. But I do
podcasts or listen to our books. That's what I do on that drive time.
Or catch up on phone calls that I need to make that aren't things where it's okay, I have to do this during that phone call, or there's going to be an action item coming out of it.
Yep.
But I did this, I don't know, 3 years ago now, maybe 4. And I realized how much time I was wasting in front of the TV. And I thought I was doing all the things. And then I literally tracked myself for a week or 2 and was like, oh shit. Oh, this is bad. I would highly recommend, even if you don't know what your one thing is or you don't know your goal, audit your days to see where you're actually spending time. And maybe that'll help you identify your goal or your one thing, because maybe you'll see, well, this is what I get excited about and that's working. So here's where I need to focus. When you're doing that, I would also note taking this back to the what's important versus urgent, are you prioritizing or are you reacting?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really great question to ask yourself so that you can be like, oh, so you can figure out, okay, do I need to time block my email? Do I get dragged into it? Am I, responding? Do I need to hire a TC? Like my TC reacts for me when forms come in.
For sure.
There were probably a dozen pieces of paperwork she sent to get signed yesterday. I was like, thank God for Emily.
Oh goodness. I can give you a spoiler alert though. For everybody in our business, right? Your one thing is lead gen.
Yeah. Probably.
Whatever that lead gen looks like, your one thing is lead gen, because I think it's Tara with the Girls with Grit. She will say like, there is no money problem that 2 hours of lead gen 5 days a week can't solve, right? Because if you don't have the business, you're not doing enough. And that's a you problem because you run your business, right? Are you running your business like a business, or are you running your business like a hobby? So whatever that lead gen looks like for you, your one thing in this industry should be lead gen. And that can look a million different ways. And we've talked about that before. What works for one person might work for another, but it also might be very different. So,
and it should be done daily. And it should be the number one thing on your calendar. It does. And you can shuffle the time if you need to, but if you know you're like us and you're like, oh no, my best time is this, then it needs to be that time every day and everything else gets scheduled around it. If you have doctor's appointments, oh yeah, we have our own schedule. We're not stuck in a 9 to 5 where we need like the lunch hour appointment, but you're not scheduling your doctor's appointment unless it's something urgent during your lead gen hours.
After 3 p.m.
Right. Or first thing in the morning, if you're an 11 to 2er, okay, then you can do the 8 a.m. doctor's appointment and come back and get back into things. But if you're the up out of bed cold call at 8 a.m., then we're not taking the 8 a.m. appointment.
Yeah. Because I think the biggest thing that you need to remember in any business, again, I know we have listeners that aren't real estate agents,
right.
but
Hi, Mom.
Success is a habit. It's not a goal, right?
Yes.
It's something that you don't just get up and you're like, oh, I did my one thing on Monday, but I didn't do it Tuesday or Wednesday because I was busy. Thursday, I did it halfway. And Friday, well, it's Friday. Nobody works on Friday, right? That's not going to get you to your goals. A habit, it happens over time. And it'll be hard for a while, right? Like, focus is hard for me. But it's something that makes a huge difference. And so if you are committed and you make that habit, it will just come naturally. It won't be a ugh. And if your one thing is something that you're excited about, that you are good at, that you look forward to, it's not like dragging your ass out of bed to go cold call for 3 hours. If that's something that you hate, that gives you hives, that you're anxious about when somebody answers the phone, like find that one thing that speaks to you and moves your business.
Right. And maybe it's not a business goal. Maybe it's not a business habit. If you've really been trying to lose weight and you're struggling to get to the gym, time block it. Just say, okay, when I wake up in the morning, I have an hour. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do my stretches. I'm going to, hit the yoga class. I do it. My Tuesdays at 6:30, I cut off at 6 o'clock because I go to yoga on Tuesdays at 6:30 with my neighbors, and we all go to the brewery and we go to yoga. And because I know I struggle to get fitness in at other times, that's a hard stop for me. Hard stop. Mm-hmm. So if it doesn't, in my opinion, this doesn't even just have to be business stuff. These can be personal things. Like maybe you've been struggling to eat better. Okay, then build in some meal prep or some grocery shopping time so that you're not running through the drive-thru on the way home. You can apply this to all sorts of things in your life.
Absolutely. Yes. So go get the book or listen to it on Audible. It's a pretty easy listen as well if you're one of those people that doesn't like to sit down and read. It's a great book.
I liked it.
I hate to give anything a 10 out of 10, but like as far as business and like self-awareness books go, I think it's a really great one.
Well, and I think especially if you're just getting started and you're not sure how to structure your day or how to structure the things that you like, this isn't going to tell you how to cold call or how to build mailers or how to farm, but this is going to help you structure your day and your week to make sure you're getting those things done. So if you're a newbie, I think this is an awesome book to sit down and read, especially if you don't have a mentor or you're not on a team to help. I wish I had read this 5 years ago.
And if you're somebody who's been in the business a million years and you have your fingers in all of the cookie jars and none of them are really producing the way that you want them to, like, maybe you need to read this as well.
Maybe if you're like, you feel like you're rebuilding for some reason or the train's gone off the track, maybe this is a good refresher for you. Definitely.
Refocus, yeah. And one thing Alyssa did say before we hopped on here was that she would recommend a pen.
Yes,
a pen and a highlighter.
I was finishing this or almost finishing it. I'm like I'm 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the way through. And I was on a plane, so it was not note-taking space. I had a highlighter and I've got tons of pages folded over. But I would highly recommend having a notebook or a notepad with you when you read this so that you can write it down and come back to things. Or even just like those little tabs so you know what to come back to in the book. That would be a good option too if you're not a note taker. But yeah.
All right. Well, this was our book review, our most recent book review for you guys. We would love it if you would find us on socials, send us an email, let us know what your one thing is that you are working on in the next several weeks, or maybe your next 12 weeks, because we are into Q3 officially. So
it's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. But with that, we will see you guys next week. We just finished another episode of Contracts and Chaos, but believe me, the chaos does not stop here. So check out the show notes for our email address and where to follow us on socials, and we will see you next week.